MMA rants and raves, Brock Lesnar vs. healthcare reform. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? If I want to know the latest about what's going on in healthcare reform, I can bore myself to death and watch C-SPAN. Why would I want to know what Brock Lesnar has to say about healthcare reform and about the Canadian healthcare system? I just don't understand it. If you guys have recently paid attention to the news, you would notice that he was recently interviewed by some radio station with a bunch of media outlets from different sources and countries, and they wanted to know about his condition, and most importantly, of course, about what he said about the Canadian healthcare system. A lot of people are insulted. And they asked him some questions which are really funny and kind of interesting. One of the questions they asked was, where was he in Canada? They want to know the outlet that he was. Like, maybe they're looking to bash them. They're saying, hey, you know, that hospital is not really that good, so maybe it's that, and he really didn't mean that because people are so insulted, because what he has to say about healthcare is very important, you know. He's Brock Lesnar. He knows everything about healthcare. I mean, I just don't get it. And why would they even have to ask a question like that? I mean, where do you think he was? The guy was somewhere maybe in the Canadian Arctic hunting elk. He was somewhere in the Canadian wilderness. It's amazing he was even able to find the hospital out there. Maybe he found some veterinarian to treat him or something that takes care of elk. I mean, there's no people over there where he was. You know, it's not like he was in the middle of Toronto or Montreal where they have a major facility to take care of various different types of ailments and trauma, whatever it is. It was a limited care facility. It was a small hospital. So that's what it was. I don't know why this is such a big issue. Another question they asked was, did you disobey the doctor's orders and just run out of there? I mean, yeah, like anybody's going to get in Brock Lesnar's way and say, hey, you can't go anywhere, right? I mean, come on. It doesn't make any sense. And then he says, well, you know, I got out of there, and then my wife drove 100 miles an hour to North Dakota. I mean, a guy like this, with all his money to drive 100 miles an hour, I would figure that he can afford to get a helicopter to lift him out of there. And the funniest question they asked of all was, does he have any insurance? Are you kidding me? This guy's a multimillionaire. The whole point of insurance is that when something happens, you're covered because you're not going to have the money to take care of yourself. That's what insurance does. If you have it on your car in case of an accident, you're covered. That's the whole point of insurance. A guy like this, of course he doesn't have insurance. What kind of question was that? And he answered the question. He said, I'm an independent contractor, which means that he pays for himself. He has enough money. If he gets sick, he can afford it. He saves money that way. Because we don't have to pay premiums. Something else. He says, I don't want to get too political. And then right after he says that, later in the interview, he says, I'm a conservative Republican. We just won a seat in Massachusetts. We have a Republican in Massachusetts. And then he says, we have the best healthcare system in the world. I don't want anything to change. We have the best doctors. Everybody comes here. He says, in the Mayo Clinic, people are coming there from all over the world, from China, from everywhere. And then he says, if I was in Thailand or Puerto Rico, I'd want to come back to the United States. Maybe somebody should tell Brock Lesnar that Puerto Rico is part of the United States. I mean, what are we going to see next? He's talking about healthcare, and I don't want to see any reform, and I don't believe in socializing healthcare. I mean, you know something, think about it. I mean, what is this guy going to do? I mean, what are we going to see next? Brock Lesnar running for office? What is he going to do, ground and pound the competition? You know what's even more interesting about it? There was a guy similar to Brock Lesnar's background. Remember Jesse the Body? He ran for governor of Minnesota. Remember that? Well, he's also from Minnesota. Maybe he wants to run for governor. Imagine Brock Lesnar for governor. That's just great. That's just what we need right now. And here's something more important about the whole thing. If you really looked into it, this is what you should get out of it, and I want you to listen closely. This whole interview and everything that's going on, him talking about Canadian healthcare, it's a distraction. It's a distraction. You know what distraction it is? For what's really going on with this guy. The point is, all high-profile athletes, when they're sick or something's wrong with them, something serious, what you do is you make a press conference. He talked about this Dr. Bruder, I think his name was. Why can't we get this guy? Why can't he be interviewed Why is the media calling Brock Lesnar? He doesn't know anything about this medical stuff and all this jargon and medicines and illnesses. I mean, he couldn't even pronounce it. What they have to do is they have to interview this doctor and find out what the prognosis is. Because what they did ask him was, they touched upon it. They said, could this thing recur? Can it come back? And he said, anything's possible. And he's right. He doesn't know. I mean, let's be fair and honest. The guy was sick. But what we should do is do what they always do. Get the press conference. The guy with the white coats with the flash bulbs popping in their face from all the pictures that they're taking. And you start asking him questions. You have the doctor. You have Brock Lesnar there, and then everybody else. And just ask the doctor. The doctor's reputation is on the line. He'll state the situation. And why is this important? It's important because we're paying for it. These are pay-per-view events, okay? They cost money, and we have to pay to see them. We want to see the very best Brock Lesnar out there. Let's face it. Anyway, guys, this is a very interesting situation, and there's a lot of ways to look at it. So please leave your comments below the video. We'd love to hear what you have to say about it. And please subscribe. Thank you for tuning in.